steps needed to keep our patients, doctors, and crew safe. With 6 locations in San Diego, including our newest office in Escondido. Call 855-GO-SUPER or book your visit online today at thesuperdentist.com.
Wake up to the world.
To the marvels.
The mayhem.
The music.
Wake up to the commotion.
The humanity.
The hope.
Wake up every morning, fully awake.
NPR Morning Edition.
Tune into your local station or download the NPR app.
Tonight at 8, how did the wild parrots of Ocean Beach come to be? Then, influential leaders in theater sit down with Michael Taylor. And later, the legacy of Iris Rideau on a new Fresh Glass. That's tonight on KPBS. You're watching KPBS. Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.
There's been another death in a jail run by the San Diego County Sheriff's Department. Thanks for joining us. I'm Amitha Sharma, in for Maya Trabulsi. The news comes as a major report on alternatives to incarceration are released. KPBS reporter John Carroll spoke with 2 people who helped put the report together.
The latest death happened Wednesday at the Las Colinas detention facility in Santee. Sheriff's officials say 63-year-old Patricia Anderson was on her way to take a shower when she showed signs of medical distress. They say paramedics' efforts to revive her were unsuccessful.
What we're trying to do is implement the practices that have been proven in other municipalities.
Bill Payne and Darwin Fishman were both part of the advisory group that put together this report. 2 years in the making, it's all about alternatives to incarceration.
It gives us an opportunity with opening up this whole process because we know a lot of the people that died in custody should have never been there in the first place.
The report comes from SANDAG. It contains 52 recommendations, including increasing the array of housing options for people who've had contact with the justice system, looking at additional booking alternatives that increase connection to services and resources, and ensuring people are released from custody in ways that support successful re-entry into society. Bill Payne is the CEO of San Diego's Second Chance, assuring people can re-enter society successfully after being incarcerated is what they do.
If we can remove people from incarceration who are ready to change and support them with the right services, then those resources that we have can be used to better healthcare, behavioral health, mental health services, substance use services, etc.
SANDAG wants the public's input on the report. They're holding a virtual community listening session at 5:30. You'll find a link to that on our website. Then the Board of Supervisors will review the report and suggestions at their meeting on May 23rd. They'll make the final decision, one that, at the very least, may help to prevent any more deaths in our county jails. John Carroll, KPBS News.
While police are out patrolling southeastern San Diego, community members are keeping watch. Coming up, how they hope to bring about more police accountability. Hundreds of migrants arriving at our southern border 1 week before Title 42 ends. That's the COVID-era public health order allowing officials to turn away certain migrants trying to enter the U.S. The director of operations for Somali Family Services says they've seen more asylum seekers coming to them, looking for housing and legal services. He says the stories that their case managers are hearing are heartbreaking.
The situations that people dealt with, whether it's through violence, whether it's through, people taking advantage of them. The thing that they always express to us is that they're the lucky ones. They're the ones that actually were able to make it here.
It's so simple. Everyone knows what's going on in my country. There's no freedom, there's no democratic, nothing. I'm just trying to look better life.
The Somali Family Services Director says there needs to be more collaboration between governments and organizations like theirs to really make a dent in the situation. Many military veterans are hit especially hard by California's lack of affordable housing. KPBS military and veterans reporter Andrew Dyer shows us what lawmakers are doing about it.
First, want to welcome you and thank you.
Democratic Representative Mike Levin and other members of Congress heard from local experts on housing and homelessness at a House Veterans Affairs Subcommittee hearing today at Maricosta College in Oceanside. Joining Levin were California Democrats Mark Takano and Young Kim, as well as the subcommittee's chair, Republican Derek Van Orden of Wisconsin. Levin says despite rumblings of cuts to the VA and ongoing debt ceiling negotiations on the Hill, he thinks Congress will do what's right for veterans.
Well, we're all going to stand together, I think, for our veterans when push comes to shove with whatever sort of negotiation there is. I think that it's certainly the intent of every member of the House. If it's not, it better be to stand up and fight for our veterans.
Levin says it's important for members of Congress to hear directly from the veterans community. He says specific legislative moves, such as changing whether VA disability benefits count toward VA housing subsidies, could help a lot of veterans in high cost of living areas. In Oceanside, Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
Freight trains have resumed runs between San Diego and Orange counties. However, passenger service remains suspended because of a landslide last week in San Clemente. BNSF Railway began taking 2 to 4 trains a day through the area. San Clemente Public Works says the area is still showing signs of movement. All Amtrak and Metrolink service is suspended until further notice. The stress on America's banks continues to tighten. PacWest is the latest regional bank in jeopardy following the collapse of 3 other U.S. lenders. Mike Valerio looks at where things stand and the potential impacts.
More troubling signs for America's banks. Shares of PacWest Bank were cut in half after Bloomberg reported the California-based lender is considering a sale. The bank says it's exploring strategic options.
There's 4,000 banks in the country. Interest rates have gone up at the fastest pace in 40 years, and the economy flowing. There are going to be bank failures.
In a statement, PacWest says, quote, the bank has not experienced out-of-the-ordinary deposit flows following the sale of First Republic Bank. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell remained confident in the U.S. banking system as he announced another interest rate hike on Wednesday.
Conditions in that sector have broadly improved since early March, and the U.S. banking system is sound and resilient.
But investors continue to flee from mid-sized regional banks, and the impacts stretch from Wall Street to Main Street, where the bank failures could lead to a credit crunch. Nervous bankers cutting back on lending and raising the cost on mortgages, credit cards, car loans, and small business loans.
You have to factor in that especially the more medium-sized and smaller banks lend to a lot of customers who don't have access to the corporate bond market or other markets. And so when those banks cut back lending, it is definitely going to have an impact on their customers who don't have other ready sources of borrowing.
I'm Mike Valerio reporting.
Consumers who were tricked by TurboTax into paying for tax services will soon get a check in the mail. The $141 million multi-state settlement was announced last year. Californians will receive more than $12 million sent out to over 400,000 people who were eligible for the IRS Free File program and instead paid to file their federal return. Those who are eligible will be contacted by email with checks for about $30 going out starting next week. A historic verdict reached today in the seditious conspiracy trial against 5 members of the Proud Boys. It's surrounding their actions leading up to and on the day of the deadly January 6th insurrection. Cole Higgins has the latest.
4 members of the Proud Boys who are alleged to have leadership positions in the far-right extremist group found guilty of seditious conspiracy by a jury in Washington, D.C., more than 2 years after the deadly attack on the U.S. Capitol. Defendants Enrique Tarrio, the Proud Boys' longtime chairman, Ethan Nordine, Joseph Biggs, Zachary Real, and Dominic Pizzola faced a range of charges for their roles to forcibly prevent the peaceful transfer of power from then-President Donald Trump to Joe Biden after the 2020 election. All 5 defendants found guilty of obstruction of an official proceeding, conspiracy to prevent an officer from discharging any duties, obstruction of law enforcement during civil disorder, and destruction of government property and aiding and abetting.
This is sending the signal that there are serious consequences to domestic groups that decide to interfere with the workings of democracy.
Prosecutors playing the jury this moment from a presidential debate.
Stand back and stand by, but I'll tell you what, somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left.
The defense arguing it was Donald Trump who caused what occurred on January 6th, and that Tarrio, who wasn't at the Capitol that day because he had been arrested, was a scapegoat. Prosecutors saying that after the insurrection, Tarrio posted to social media, quote, "Make no mistake, we did this." Cole Higgins, KPBS News.
Police have made an arrest in connection to a series of stabbings near the UC Davis campus. The violent attacks happened over 5 days, killing 2 people, seriously injuring another, and leaving the community on edge. A 21-year-old former student was taken into custody today. He is facing 2 counts of homicide and 1 count of attempted murder.
I'm Jeff Bennett. Tonight on the NewsHour, members of the far-right Proud Boys are convicted for their role in the Capitol insurrection. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
San Diegans are banding together to watch the police. KPBS reporter Katie Hyson and video journalist Roland Elizondo joined the Southeast San Diego Accountability Unit for an inside glimpse into their efforts.
Field interview.
Oh, so you did an FI, okay. San Diego police data show officers are much more likely to stop and use force on Black and Latino residents than white residents. And KPBS has found that many records of officer misconduct are missing any information on disciplinary action. Some San Diegans are volunteering their free time to create more police accountability. San Diego Police Department did not respond to requests for comment.
My name is Malcolm Mutaki, and I'm a resident of San Diego, a descendant of enslaved Africans in America trying hard to survive.
Mutaki helped form a cop watch group about 5 years ago. For decades, there have been cop watch groups all over the country.
This is just a continuance of a long, long legacy.
The participants of this one in Southeast San Diego say it's breaking generational curses by crossing deep divides. People who may not otherwise team up, Crips, Bloods, Black Panthers, Muslims, and Christians, all meet on a Thursday night at what used to be called the Four Corners of Death, a notorious site of gang violence.
We got Bloods and Crips out here, so...
They pile into cars together to monitor the police, whose salaries they pay with their taxes. The windows are down. The cars communicate by walkie-talkie. Phone call tips and a police scanner tell them where to go. The mood feels light. They joke and laugh as they search for police stops.
They can get away with it.
I ask them if it's because power in numbers lets them feel comfortable around the police. They're quick to correct me. Michael White says they laugh because they have to.
We're traumatized.
Some of them have criminal records, but they say the trauma is not just from the police. It's that they watch their friends get shot down on a corner one day, and they come back the next with candles and flowers, hanging out like nothing ever happened. Though they're from rival neighborhoods, White says this shared struggle binds them together.
We think we're enemies, but when you really look at it, the police and the system is the real enemy, and we all getting oppressed the same. But we tired of getting shot and killed and locked up for nothing. So we put them differences to the side.
The dozen cop watchers divide roles. Note takers, recorders, and talkers.
Not by myself tonight.
They park by stops and approach the scene, maintaining some feet of distance. Their shirts say, "We are not afraid" on the front, and on the back, "Don't shoot, just filming." Cop watcher Karan Field says the simple act of observing, a legal right, changes police behavior.
Now they got some customer service. Now that, they out there shaking hands and, hey, sorry we had to bother you, but in the state of California,
We stop a few times. At the first stop, police appear to be detaining a man walking in the street. But cop watcher Musla Abdul Hafiz recognizes the man from the community. He says the man is not drunk, but deaf and intellectually disabled, and offers to walk him across the street.
Come on, just sit down, because they're going to take you to jail. You go back in the street, though. All right?
The cops let him go. At another stop, police question a man whose license they say isn't valid. Mutaki prevents the car from getting impounded by driving the man home himself. Back in the car, I asked the cop watchers.
Are you all ever nervous doing this?
Nah, I'm more nervous for not doing this.
They admit it's risky, especially for those on parole, but say it's worth it. Besides observing stops, Mutaki says they connect people to bail funds, give civil rights trainings, and help people file complaints against the police. Hundreds since the group began. The San Diego Police Department promised 2 years ago to reduce racial disparities in stops. But while the number of stops decreased, racial disparities increased. Katie Heisen, KPBS News.
That story is just one example of the feature reporting done by the KPBS newsroom. You can find more at the KPBS YouTube page. Usually, the San Diego Comic-Con is a chance for fans to get exclusive details about upcoming film and TV projects. But with the convention less than 3 months away, there is a question about how the ongoing writers' strike in Hollywood could affect the experience. The last time the Writers Guild of America went on strike, it lasted 100 days. We've already seen its impact, with some late-night shows already having to air reruns. San Diego Comic-Con unofficial blog editor-in-chief Carrie Dixon says the strike would also mean writers can't make promotional appearances. That includes projects like the Mad Max prequel.
George Miller is the director, but he also co-wrote it. So because he's the co-writer, if the writer's strike continues, maybe that would have come to Comic-Con this year, but now George Miller is probably not going to come. He's probably not going to bring his movie.
Actors could also skip the convention in a show of solidarity. Drew Barrymore just announced she will not host this Sunday's MTV Video Awards to support the striking writers. Comic-Con runs from July 19th through the 23rd. Today is the third day Hollywood writers have been on strike. WGA members walked off the job after failing to get a contract deal. They told reporter Jeff Wynn why they're in this fight.
Under one of the most famous water towers in the world, 3-year-old Mirabelle picketed with her mom and dad.
We have not had a staff job in a couple years.
Charla and James Oliver are a writing team striking with the Writers Guild of America. On Monday, the union and the Hollywood studios failed to reach an agreement on a new labor contract.
When you're working, you do get paid well, but that money needs to carry you through the lean years.
The sticking points have been over more pay and higher residuals for streaming content. The studios have pushed back, saying the industry is facing budget constraints, as seen with recent layoffs at Disney and Warner Brothers Discovery. A number of writers have been telling us even before the strike there has been a slowdown in production over the past year, forcing them to look elsewhere for work.
In order to survive, I had to take a job at REI to supplement my income.
Don Kamuchi Sharavanan has a long list of writing credits, including HBO's Sharp Object and The Falcon and The Winter Soldier on Disney+. But she says unless a show is on network TV with reruns, residual checks may be as little as $25.
When you get to sort of the more exotic platforms, the checks get smaller and smaller and smaller.
Mirabelle was born a month into COVID lockdowns. That's her on mom's chest. As Charla worked on a script her parents sold before the strike.
The odds of getting something on the air, it's like hitting the lottery and then hitting the lottery again in the same day. The odds are so stacked against you, and they frankly don't need to be.
What do we want? When do we want it? Now!
With no end in sight for the strike, it's unclear if the Oliver's project will ever move forward.
That was Jeff Wynn reporting movie theaters may take the biggest brunt if the Writers Guild of America strike isn't resolved. Moody's analysis today says the theaters rely on big-name films to bring in customers. It also says theaters are more vulnerable due to having low credit ratings and less financial flexibility compared to most studio and TV networks. Unfortunately, we now have to bring you some sad news. Mary, the San Diego Zoo's oldest and last Asian elephant, has died. Mary was euthanized at the zoo yesterday after age-related joint ailments severely impacted her daily activity. Zoo officials say Mary was under veterinary care for some time. Mary was born in the wild in Thailand in 1964 and came to San Diego Zoo Safari Park in Escondido in 1980. She was later moved to the San Diego Zoo in 2009. Mary was 59 years old. More coastal cities are getting federal funding for sand replenishment projects. They will bring much needed sand and widen the beaches. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne was there as the contracts became official.
What do the coastal cities of San Clemente, Encinitas, and Solana Beach have in common? They're all losing sand on their beaches due to coastal erosion. On Thursday, leaders from the 3 coastal cities each signed a 50-year contract with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to begin sand replenishment projects.
And if you know anything about San Clemente, you know the beaches are the fabric where we paint our lives. So this is incredibly important to the citizens of San Clemente, to all of our visitors, and really to our businesses as well, because our beaches are critical to our local economy.
It is, in fact, imperative that we acknowledge the fact that beach sand nourishment projects, such as this project, are the way of the future in California in order to maintain a coastline condition that we have come to expect. Wide, sandy beaches with plenty of room for leisure and recreation.
So important to our recreation, to our beautiful beaches, to the public safety, to preserving the infrastructure that is important to all of our daily lives, and really improving the quality of life for everybody who comes to visit our beaches.
The sand is brought in from offshore by a dredge and pumped onto the beach in a slurry. The San Clemente Shoreline Project will place over 200,000 cubic yards of sand on the city beach. That will widen the area by about 50 feet. This widening not only helps preserve the recreational beach use, but will also help protect the rail lines that run along the coast. The work in San Clemente is estimated to start in February. The second project is on a larger scale, but expected to start sooner, this fall. Solana Beach will get around 700,000 cubic yards of sand, and Encinitas around 300,000.
One of my top priorities is ensuring that our beaches and infrastructure remain operational for years and decades to come. They're critical lifelines for our communities, and I'm going to continue to fight for federal resources to ensure their protection.
Representative Mike Levin helped expedite the projects by securing funding through the bipartisan infrastructure law. $9 million for San Clemente and $30 million for Encinitas and Solana Beach. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
Our latest storm will relax its grip on the area overnight tonight, so our rain tapers to showers, and they'll be diminishing overnight, but a few could linger into tomorrow morning. After that, we'll start to see a little more sunshine. So as you take a look at our weather headlines, there could be a couple of showers lingering for the first part of the day on Friday, but we should have partly sunny skies by the afternoon. And then as we look to the weekend, we'll see clouds and sun, but it should be drier and brighter. But temperatures will be staying a little bit on the cool side, so we'll say a little bit below average. Here's our forecast for tonight in the metro. There'll be a couple of showers around, so roads could be wet. Be careful on your travels. Temperatures in the mid-50s. And as we take a look at temperatures around the area, we'll dip down to the 40s. Ramona and Escondido, Chula Vista, down to 54. El Cajon at 51. And as we check the future satellite and radar, well, we do see some showers still coming into the area overnight tonight. And then tomorrow morning, notice there'll still be a few showers around, but they'll start to diminish by lunchtime. And as we take a look at the forecast, it looks like we'll see brighter skies by the afternoon. So after a few lingering morning showers, we'll see some sun returning. Temperatures will be hovering in the low to mid-60s for the most part. 66 in San Diego. Borrego Springs up to a nice mild 76. And then as we head our way to the weekend, we're looking nice, some gorgeous weather here. We'll see clouds overnight giving way to some sun during the day. And you see our temperatures hovering in the mid-upper 60s. As we go to the inland areas, clouds and sun, a little cool, but Monday and Tuesday a bit milder. That looks nice. In the mountains, a little crisp here. And we'll see temperatures upper 40s to low 50s. And in the deserts, We'll be looking at plenty of sunshine, and the temperatures will be on the rise into next week. And for KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
The weather has done wonders for wildflowers, but what about our local flower farms? KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado visited the Flower Trade Center in Carlsbad.
The International Floral Trade Center in Carlsbad is buzzing with activity. They're gearing up for Mother's Day, and florists are stocking up for the big day.
So how big is Mother's Day for you?
Probably the biggest holiday out of the year.
Flower sales for Mother's Day are expected to be higher than ever this year. According to the National Retail Federation, people in the U.S. will spend $3.2 billion on flowers alone. Arturo Mendoza, better known as Pepe, the owner of Pepe's Flowers, says he sells 10 times more.
Mother's Day is very busy, crazy, so right now we just getting ahead, getting flowers and getting ready for Mother's Day and getting ready for Mexican Mother's Day.
We've already started seeing the traffic in here where it's just crazy, and you go home at the end of the day and your head's spinning.
Renee Williams is Milano & Company's sales representative. She says it's one of the busiest times of the year for their 500-acre oceanside farm, and this year is even busier.
This will be my third Mother's Day with Milano's, and I remember, we were busy, but I just don't remember it being this busy early on.
Their farm is famous for their colorful ranunculus that is finally looking beautiful in time for Mother's Day.
What's happened is the rain, it's just retained a lot of water, and that's why it's soft.
While rain has been good for wildflowers, it hasn't been kind to some of their specialty items.
And then for a while, we didn't have our guneye. Guneye is absolutely beautiful. And because of the rain, we didn't have that either.
The season for different varieties is very late. So we're kind of like, we don't get things that we normally get at this time of the year. So that's kind of, it hurts some people a lot.
Third-generation florist Robin Phillips, who owns Adelaide's Flowers in La Jolla, says that and other factors have affected prices.
The prices have kind of skyrocketed.
But just like everything else, everything's going up in price. I'm finding that the flowers that I'm buying today are a good $3 more a bunch than the last time I was here.
But that won't stop Abby Olivas Twist from buying flowers for her madrecita. She will celebrate Mother's Day twice.
Celebramos el Día de las Madres on May 10th for my mom. We are Mexican, le llevamos flores, estamos ahí con ella, we have dinner, and just get together with her. And then Sunday comes around, American Mother's Day, and we do it all over again.
Pepe's advice is to get your orders in early because they often run out of the prettiest flowers and delivery times. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Amitha Sharma, and have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you. Tonight at 8, how did the wild parrots of Ocean Beach come to be? Then influential leaders in theater sit down with Michael Taylor. And later, the legacy of Iris Rideau on a new fresh glass. That's tonight on KPBS.
What is your name?
Tom Jones.
Tom!
I thought they only talked about me.
Can you go a single day without causing mayhem?